Hello, welcome back. I figured I would sit down and do a little bit of a chit-chatty video with you today. I never do these, but man, I think I'm gonna start. But I am in Nashville for a few days. It is completely paid for. I'm staying in a really nice hotel, and I realized that all of this is possible because of saying yes. Saying yes to events, saying yes to not being scared, saying yes to things that could go well in my life when for a while I got really used to things not going well. And I figured it was a really opportune time to talk about why I have this mantra of you are just on time to live the life of your dreams. It is not something that I have down perfectly, but it's definitely something that I have learned and that I am learning and that I feel is so important. So a little bit of a background about me. I'm sure you have heard it in some of my other videos, but when I was in my mid-20s, both of my parents passed, and it left me to really help take care and raise and get off the ground my brother and sister to just be able to be functioning adults, but then at the same time, me trying to function as an adult. And it really set back in my mind a lot of things that I thought were possible or thought that I wanted to do, because it instilled a lot of fear of not being secure, fear of not having money, fear of what if I lose people, fear of all sorts of things that just really trickled down into. I was a teacher at the time, and I really wanted to go and get my master's, and I thought about going to get my PhD. It hadn't really fully settled in at that time, but it was something that I had thought of, and it was something I wanted to do, but I was just too afraid to do it. I was afraid of the cost of it. I was afraid of just all of the things that would be associated with going and doing something more for myself that I wanted to do. And so fast forward a few years, I actually did end up going and getting into my master's program. And from that master's program, because of my specialty, they identified me for this training program to be able to get my PhD, where they would pay for my PhD and they would pay a small stipend for me to be able to attend as well. But what that meant I needed to do was to face a fear and not have a full-time job for 4 years. And so I came at a crossroads where I had to make a decision. Am I going to go the safe route, or am I going to take this leap of faith and do this thing that I have wanted to do for a really long time? So I was 35 when I started my PhD program. I'm 41 now. I was 35 when I started my PhD program, and I see that as a really pivotal moment in how leaps of faith can really just take you into a different direction and open you up to things that you never thought were possible. They wanted me to come back and be here as a resource for their new scholars who are going through the training program and are working to get their PhDs. So while this is Nashville, it's not necessarily some big out of the country, even though I have been paid to do that as well. What I was thinking as I was on my way here is that one yes has led to lots of other open doors that at the time I didn't really fathom. And I liked my job as a special education coordinator, but I was so very, very excited to start my PhD program, to think about the people that I could help from that and just how different my life could look. But the yes to the program opened up really even more doors than what I thought. I was able to see where I had been worried about finances or money for so long. When I made the leap and to jump into the yes, it was like things just started working together, where I could see where I had the money and I was not actually suffering at all. In fact, I was living in abundance with a lot less resources than I had with actually more resources, because of the willingness to jump out there and to say, I'm going to do this thing and I know that it's going to work out. I really felt that God had put it in my heart, if I made that decision, that He was going to sustain me throughout. And not only did He sustain me, but He opened up so many more doors than I was actually expecting. So I say that you are just on time to live the life of your dreams, because it is what I am living and what I'm experiencing and what I'm learning now that I wish I had known 10, 20, whatever years ago, but that I know now and I am super excited about, and I'm able to enjoy a life that 10 years ago did not even think was possible. And it starts with tiny yeses. It starts with saying yes a little bit, and those grow into those bigger leaps of faith. You have to learn to be able to trust yourself with the small yes before you can trust yourself to go after that bigger yes. I do feel like you truly are, regardless of your age, just on time to live that life that you want, to go after those dreams, to travel, to do whatever it is that you want to do, to change careers, to become a mom or become a dad, or lose that weight, or whatever it is that your dream is. It's not out of reach. And sometimes the only reason that it is out of reach is because of our own thoughts and our own past experiences that guide us to believing that we are confined and that we are limited, when there is actually so much more out there for us. I feel like we are all so perfectly situated and individualized to give what it is that we have to someone else. I always find it funny when people talk about competition on YouTube. I don't feel like I'm competing with anybody. Whoever it is that is supposed to be drawn to me will be drawn to me. Whatever it is that you are doing, if you feel like your area is too saturated or you can't do that thing, there is a place for you, because you're an individual, and the world or whomever you've been called to need those unique gifts and talents that you have, that only you can provide. And so for any big takeaways, I would say see your past experiences, especially if they were bad experiences, see things as happening for you as opposed to happening to you. That switch in mindset can really open you up, or has really opened me up to be able to see things where I honestly just felt like God had abandoned me, and that the life that I had before was the best that life would be. It helped me to see that thing wasn't true. Losing my parents was the worst time in my life. My family was super, super close growing up. And so not having them just it hurt. But with that, I see that God was still very much in the midst, and he was working and he was orchestrating things. Here is an example to be able to see kind of the trickle effect of what happened. My dad was my pastor, so I grew up as a preacher's kid. That was the church that I grew up in. That was the church that I was always going to be in. But once he passed, I could no longer be there. I made the really difficult decision to move to a different church. Started to meet some really good friends who are my best friends now. One of those women was also a teacher. She ended up getting a job at a school that I ended up moving to, where she was able to open that door for me. Moving to that school is where I met my eventual husband. He and I really pushed each other toward our master's PhD program, and thus the thread that got me there. However, without all of those things that came together at just the right time, I might have still gone and gotten my master's, might have still gone and gotten my PhD, but I was at the exact place at the right time for this training program that I had gotten in on the very last year of. It's how all of these things work together when we think that the things are not happening for us. What I have learned from that experience is to take all of those experiences and see, okay, well, what did that lead to? That was potentially a really bad thing, or that was a thing that frustrated me, or this thing took me off course, I thought took me off course, but here is what it led to, and this is the good thing that came out of it. And sometimes it's really hard to, and I'm sometimes still working to reconcile the fact that both of those things can exist. You can exist with really, really bad things, but then also there can be really, really good things that come out of that. The next thing that I would say is to dream. Dream so hard that it scares you. There is this quote that says that if your dreams don't scare you, then they aren't big enough. And so if you have dreams that don't feel out of reach, then you need to dream bigger. And it's scary to put yourself out there for potential disappointment and to see that thing that you want, to see that dream that you have not be realize potentially, but it may also actually happen. And so I think it's important to continue to dream. It is only in that you start to realize that potentially these things can happen. You need hope to be able to get through things. You need hope to be able to go from one step to the next. Without hope, life can be truly unbearable, and we don't fully realize the options and the potential things that are available to us because we're living in the safe zone. Safe feels great, but safe is so dangerous. It feels like there's no risk in staying in this comfort zone. But at the end of the day, you have to determine how much your comfort zone is worth. Growth happens when we find ourselves up against a situation where we have to make a decision to grow, to change, to evolve, to become something different. And that growth just does not happen when things are easy. And so I would say for those comfort zones or being in those safe places, you have to decide what that cost is to you. It might be that you see this thing that is your dream and you say, no, I'm going to push that aside. I'm going to live this safe route, and it might turn out fine. It might be okay. But then the other and possibly bigger option is that you go through life realizing that there is this deep-seated unfulfillment and lack of joy or lack of feeling like you were able to do and accomplish the things that were in your heart to be able to do and accomplish. And I think the last thing that I would say is to say yes. I'm going to say it again. I'm going to say it over and over and over again. Say yes to those things. Start out with some small yeses. Say you want to meet friends and you would typically not open yourself up to go out to a social event that maybe your apartment complex is having or your church is having or some other group that you're involved in is having. Start by saying yes and just go to it. That is a small yes that could lead to meeting somebody who could be influential in your life, or that person would be able to make a connection with someone else who may end up eventually being influential in your life. Start with the small yeses, and those eventually lead up to bigger things where you trust yourself. You see that, oh, I said yes to this one thing and I didn't die of embarrassment, or I didn't trip and fall on my face, or nothing bad happened. I said yes to this thing and that worked out just fine. Maybe I can say yes to this next thing, and then this next thing, and then this next thing, and it leads to bigger yeses that allow us to move into the direction that we want to move. It is often in the yeses where the doors open and we start to see changes. So start saying yes. All right, so I am off to this conference. It is time for me to walk out of the door, but know that you are loved, you are valuable, you are special, you are needed, you have something that others need, and that you are just in time to live the life of your dreams. I love you, and I'll see you next time. Bye.